So, onward to Phantasm II, like I was saying. In this one, Mike is James LeGros, which I already mentioned, and he's released from a psychiatric hospital after telling everybody that, you know, he believed the things that happened were a dream and all this stuff, and he didn't really believe in the tall man and yada yada yada. But he knows something's wrong, and Reggie picks him up, and they're getting ready to go back to Reggie's house, and I think it's have Thanksgiving dinner or have dinner or something like that. And he has this like psychic link now with the tall man and with this other girl who you meet later on in the movie. But he knows that something bad's going to happen to Reggie's house, and that happens. So Reggie's like, well, I'm all on my own now, so we'll just go and try to find this woman who you were introduced to at the beginning of the movie, who's kind of got this, like I said, link to the character of Mike. And so the rest of the movie is just those two guys trying to find her and, you know, find the tall man and stop the tall man. It's a road movie, really, and it's a really action-packed movie. And of course, it introduces the quad barrel shotgun, which is like 4 barrels on, that Reggie uses, and much more violent and just kind of like a popcorn movie than the first film. It has a great ending to it. It's probably my favorite ending of the whole series, actually. And I actually like Phantasm II as much as the original Phantasm. So I would definitely say to pick that one up. So a couple years later, they decided to try it again in '93, and you know, they didn't have as much of a budget for this one as they did for the Universal one, because really the Phantasm II bombed, and so but they came up with Phantasm III, and it did bring back the character of A. Michael Baldwin, or the character of Mike, played by A. Michael Baldwin, and got rid of James LeGros and brought back Reggie. And in this one, actually, it's got Bill Thornberry in it too, and it's another road movie, but in this one, it's 15 years after the original one, and Reggie and Mike are trying to kill the tall man, and this time Bill Thornberry, his brother, or Mike's brother, is a sphere that shows up as like a sphere and then transforms into his brother, like a hologram kind of thing, and kind of like talks to him and guides him and all this stuff. And as they're on their way through the different set pieces in the movie, they come across a couple of new characters. One of them is a little kid who's kind of like a Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone mixed with like a real serious violence. Like there's all these zombies now in these different towns where the tall man goes, and he has these weapons, this kid does, to take care of these zombies, like a frisbee with, I think it's like razor blades or something on it that he throws, and it like decapitates them, and all these little like trinkets that he uses. And then there's another woman that they meet, and her name is Rocky, and she's from the army, and she's like a martial arts expert that has nunchucks and all this stuff. So they pick up these people along the way, and then they're fighting all the dwarves and the zombies. And this one's it's like they mix slapstick comedy with the series. It's probably the least serious one of any of them. A lot of people hate this one because of the characters, which, I mean, the two new characters aren't really that good. The whole sphere thing with Jody, I believe is Mike's brother's name, is really kind of out there even for these movies, kind of a little bit silly, but I like it. I think it's okay. It's got some memorable scenes, but it's definitely not as good as the first two. So I don't have the fourth movie, because I'll be honest with you, I should have it just as a completist, but it's my least favorite of the series. And in the fourth one, it goes back and tries to tell the origins of the Tall Man, and how, you know, he was once just a regular guy named Jebediah Morningside, and he was an inventor, and he created this thing where he could, I guess, jump to parallel universes, which is another thing from the first film that I forgot to mention, is there's this warp thing that looks like a guitar tuner. It's like two little silver, you know, poles that come up, and you touch them like this, and you can go through, like, in the middle of them, into another dimension where these dwarves rule the world or whatever. So in this one it shows how he made that and how he became the Tall Man. And there's a lot of flashback sequences from the first. And what Don Coscarelli did was he took the clips that they didn't use from the first Phantasm movie, and a lot of the stuff that was edited out of the first Phantasm movie, he inserted it into this film. So the flashback sequences is really just unused footage from the original Phantasm, which is actually the coolest part about the movie, because you get to see, you know, like, it's like a special features disc, you know, in a movie, really. You get to see all the stuff. There's a really neat scene with Angus Scrimm being hanged by Mike from a tree, and that's always been one of my favorite scenes in the film. But the actual stuff, the new stuff that was made for this film, it's just not very good. There's a whole plot with Mike, like, has a sphere implanted in, and he's turning evil. And there's this whole, you know, telepathic link thing, I guess, left over from the third movie between, you know, Mike and the Tall Man. And the one thing that you really notice about it is that the mobility of Angus Scrimm is really limited in this film. I mean, he really doesn't have a lot to do, because he really can't do a whole lot. I mean, he can't even really be menacing in this film. So a lot of fans like the movie because it is an origin movie, and it's got a lot about the backstory of the Tall Man. But as a whole, I'd say it's probably my least favorite in the series. So let's go on and talk about, I guess, after the Phantasm series, the next film that Coscarelli would have done would have been Beastmaster in 1982. And that film, I saw that one time. I never really had any desire to see it again. It's a very slow-burning film about a guy that can control animals, and he talks to animals. And Mark Singer's the guy. He goes around with his shirt off the whole time. Very, very sword and sorceress type of fantasy film. Don't remember that much about it. Just remember that I really didn't care for it that much, and probably will never watch it again. So there's that one. Skip over that one. And the next film that he would have done that wasn't related to Phantasm was this one that I think is a very underrated movie. This is Survival Quest, starring Lance Henriksen, Catherine Kenner. Catherine Kenner, you might remember from 40-Year-Old Virgin. It's also got Dermot Mulroney in it, and it's the story of Lance Henriksen is a guide who runs a survival school, and this group of city folk come down and want to learn, you know, how to survive in the mountains and get away from the city and all this. And he teaches them, but he's the hippie slash, you know, in tune with nature guy that wants everybody to respect nature. And so the group goes up in the mountains, and they come into contact with another group of, like, paramilitary guys who are up there doing, like, war game simulations. And the two groups get into it, and there's a clash, and it's like an accident. You think it's kind of like maybe it's an accident, maybe it's not, happens. And one of the military leaders decides that in order to cover up what happened, that I don't want to give away, that he will have to kill the whole group of people. And so the rest of the film is really like them trying to actually survive the attack by the military guys, and how that they can use the knowledge that Lance Henriksen gave them to try to do that. It's a really good film. It's not in any way related to the horror genre, but it does have some violence in it, and it's got some amazing acting in it by Henriksen, probably one of his best roles, and Keener, she's great in it. It's before she had the gap in her tooth thing fixed, and she looks hilarious, but she's great in the film. Really underrated. Came out from Anchor Bay a couple years ago. Picked that one up. So Onward Through Time, with Survival Quest being that film. I think he would go on to write Beastmaster II, Portal Through Time, which I've never seen, and I'm thankful that I've never seen it, to be honest. And then after that, he'd of course make some more of the Phantasm films I already talked about. But the next film he would make that wasn't related to Phantasm was one of my favorites, and that is Bubba Ho-Tep, which you can see I got buy two get the third free on this one. But this is Bruce Campbell stars as Elvis in this film, and he's in a nursing home many years after Elvis's prime. And there's a Ho-Tep, which is a mummy that's wandering through the nursing home, stealing people's souls through their assholes. And Bruce Campbell is like a wisecracking Bubba Elvis in this film. He does a great job. And him along with O.C. Davis, who's playing JFK. There's a whole story about, when JFK really wasn't assassinated or something like that, or maybe he was assassinated, and they, I think that he says that the CIA dyed his skin black, that way nobody would know it was him, and he now lives in this nursing home. So you never really know if these people are actually just crazy and they live in a nursing home, or if they really are if that's a real part of the story, and he is Elvis, and that guy is JFK, but there's a story about, Elvis got too famous, so he decided to let one of the Elvis impersonators really play Elvis, and he would just retire and go on and live a normal life. So this is as that story picks up with him being attacked by a mummy in the nursing home. Bruce Campbell's amazing in this film. I mean, he captures everything about Elvis perfectly. So Bubba Ho-Tep, check that one out. It's a great film. It instantly became a cult classic. 2003 when it was released. Just on the performance of Campbell alone, this film should be a cult classic. But it's one that I can go back and watch over and over again. A really good independent film. So after Ho-Tep, I don't think that Coscarelli really did anything else until the Masters of Horror series, where he teamed back up with Angus Scrimm for Incident on and Off a Mountain Road, which was one of the first, I believe, of the actual Masters of Horror series, which was a great series by Mick Garris. And it's the story of a woman that gets picked up, kidnapped and taken to this place where she's locked in with a character played by Angus Scrimm, and you come to find out some twists and turns about the characters in the film, or the series, which I really don't want to give away. The whole series was great, though. The stuff that the foreign directors did, Dario Argento with Peltz, and Takashi Miike with that one, I don't remember the name of it now, but it was Imprint was the name of it, yeah. Just some of the most cutting edge stuff that actually came out around that time, now that I think about it. So it was a great series. So that's really it. There's a Bubba Nosferatu plan for 2011, and I don't know what's ever going to happen with that, because Bruce Campbell's not attached anymore. Something happened between him and Coscarelli, and there's a falling out, but don't really know anymore about if that project will happen, when it will happen. It's very tentative right now, from what I understand. Also, there's the possibility of Phantasm V, and that's being kicked around, which at this point, I don't know what you do with the Tall Man, but you'd be doing very little, so he'd have to limit that stuff a lot. But Coscarelli is really a guy that I don't think has gotten the respect that he deserves. I mean, he made some amazing films, even out of the Phantasm box. And I encourage anybody to go pick up Survival Quest and Bubba Ho-Tep and watch those films. They're two amazing films. He's definitely a Masters of Horror, and he does not get the recognition he deserves. So check out his films. Check us out over at DEADPIT.com. And hopefully this wasn't too long. And I'll probably do some more of these. So thanks to everybody for watching.